everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Dancing with Damage. I'm Ian, your resident philosopher.
I'm Abby, your resident author.
Nice to see you again, Abby.
It's not like we've spent all day together.
Yes, but that's true. So thanks for joining us again, and to Archie, who is down there.
Pretty off camera, but demanding attention.
That's right. So we have our warm beverages. We hope you do too.
Mine's cold.
Oh, it is. Well, cheers. As one does. Because today, you can see the title of our episode is Where's Your Proof? And so we're sort of, again, loosely following the book, The Social Blueprint, written by Abby and myself in this year. And
2025 is now 2026.
oh, not in this year. I was mostly right, I think. But no, that's right. It was written last year. And it's been in the works for many, many years. And now it's here. We're very excited about it. And if we follow the progression, Abby, we kind of find that once we talk a little bit about damage, a little bit about social damage, a little bit about love, we also sort of talk about how we base our arguments as we progress through the book.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see. We're very excited about this topic, and Ian had an idea, so I want to hear his idea.
I don't remember the idea. But what we're going to do is just chat about it, because as you may recall, and Abby, as you may want to recap about the whole purpose of Dancing with Damage, about damage, how would you summarize damage?
I'm trying to think of a new way to say it because I've said it before. But basically, it's a compulsion to do things that you don't want to do, that are not helpful, and you don't know why. It's like someone's taken over your body. It's like you're sleepwalking. It's like that little voice in the back of your head, to use money as an example, because I feel a lot of people can relate to that. You're on Amazon and there's a flash sale and you don't need anything. You're trying to save your money. You don't have a lot of spare change to spend. But for some reason, I just have to buy this thing that's allegedly 60% off. I'm not Googling to see if it is a good deal. I'm not going to wait to purchase it to see if I actually want it. I'm just going to buy it now. And it's like something just compels you.
Yeah, damage, the idea being in developed first world countries such as ours, such as Canada, but many around the world, if you examine each person's life very closely, as sort of we've done, as we've been probing this theory, almost always, or we find always, if you scrutinize a human's life closely enough, including your own, you will find a major character flaw that they ought to know not to do. And generally, if you ask them about, are aware they ought not to do, but continue to do anyway, to the great detriment of an otherwise quite happy, functional life. It's a little bit like if someone was a great swimmer, and for some reason on one ankle they wore a heavy weight, like those weights you can wrap around your.
I was gonna say they just didn't stretch; they just stopped stretching.
That's a nice way to think about it too.
Tear your muscles, and it can cause injuries that may make it so you can never swim at the same level you once did. Got to be careful.
Yeah, imagine a swimmer who stretched all their muscles but one muscle in their leg, and so of course they're going to pull that muscle, and they're not going to swim as well as they could. And so we look at our own lives for signs of damage. Maybe we can start by just chatting about some examples. We've talked the easiest ones to see it. We talked about a little bit our diet and exercise, things that. And again, we're talking about the demographic of first world countries who ought to be making all the best choices because they have all the information and resources available, but just don't really. And so diet and exercise was an easy one to point out. Abby mentioned relationships that usually, often end up failing to great detriment, end up in family court. It was very problematic. We mentioned spending, on non-essential spending that pushes people into debt. What are some other ones, Abby?
We're branching out now, are we?
Let's just branch out. Like, did you see any examples of damage today?
Yes. One example that is pretty common and is annoying, and sometimes we notice it and sometimes we don't, is cutting people off when they speak. So either we're bored of what they're saying, we anticipate we know what they're going to say, or we're not listening and we just want to say what we want to say and we're not really engaging with what the conversation is. Either way, not allowing someone to finish their thought unless they are talking ad nauseum and in a way that is unhelpful. But 99% of the time, if you're cutting somebody off when they're speaking, it is rude. And we're all guilty of it. And usually there's an instant shame. As you're doing it, you think, oh, I wish I didn't do that. Why did I just do that? Why?
Yeah.
Damage.
So our theory is damage. There are many theories as to why people do little micro behaviors like that. Mm-hmm. And it seems like a very minor thing, but see, what we're going to talk about later is how important positive relationships are to a human. And so these micro behaviors can actually affect the people who want to spend time with you. One thing I saw the other day, I was speaking with a very intelligent guy, and he's a bit older. Mm-hmm. And we were in sort of a room full of people. And this person, despite, I think, knowing better and knowing that it would ruffle a few feathers, made some comments that were sort of on the cusp of being a little bit insensitive towards women.
Oh, don't love that.
And it caused the people who were listening to kind of pull away, to not want to engage in the conversation with that person. And again, it's too bad because that person has a lot to offer. They're interesting, they're intelligent. And I bet you, if you could go into the mind of that person I'm talking about, they would know that when they say things like that, it kind of drives away people who they want to be listening to them.
Sorry, that just reminds me. I won't say what show we were watching, but this happened to me yesterday. So we were watching one of the late night talk shows, and they were discussing a tragic event. And then they started making jokes, which I understand usually they're very comedic, but it left a bad taste in my mouth because even though you could tell that the host cared deeply about this tragic event and that they thought it was bad, which is, I think, the right way to think about a tragic event. And even though they went on to make excellent points that were very pro-social and good for the audience and good for everyone to follow, in that moment, they made a joke about the tragic event that just happened. And they were reporting for the first time that this tragic event unfolded. So I felt watching that show that if you're reporting on something very heavy, very life altering for a lot of people, sort of a milestone in a society, for the first time nonetheless, not that it's ever funny, but like it's brand new. This is new information to everybody. And you immediately make a joke about that event as you're reporting on it. It left a bad taste in my mouth. I felt I drew back. And even though the rest of the show was very smart and they made good points, I felt like I couldn't connect. They lost me because of the way they handled their material.
It's a great example. And we often hear the expression, know your audience. Mm-hmm. So a very common trait of damage is a person who, and maybe in your own life, you've experienced it within yourself, where you feel like you have a gauge of your audience. Something is said in an attempt either to be funny or to be insightful or for some normally good reason, but the audience is read incorrectly, and it sort of it backfires. Mm-hmm. And we see this in the same people over and over again, despite the fact these people ought to know and probably do know that it's important not to cross certain lines with certain audiences. Most of us do it reflexively and can keep our comments within proper boundaries, but you'll notice a lot of people just can't. And until you sort of think about that the person is actually looking to harm their social prospects, mm-hmm. It doesn't make any sense why people continue to do this. You probably have a relative who at family gatherings will just say something improper, and people up till now have just brushed it off to ignorance or inability to control themselves. But we found that wasn't a great explanation, Abby.
Well, no. I mean, if somebody is saying off-color things, it has been a solid, I'd say 30 years of very widespread understanding that certain things cannot be said in polite society because it's just not something that is appropriate to say. We understand that regardless of what people may believe or how they grew up or whatever, if you're in polite society, there are certain things that if you say can harm people because it's a comment about somebody's nationality or their group or their religion or their identity, and it's just not okay. And previously, people could say, oh, it was okay in the past, but it's very firmly in 2026 known that it's not okay to make a joke at somebody else's expense if they're not consenting, and it's not a platform where that's expected. If you go to a stand-up comedy show and someone makes a joke that's a little off color, you might be more in a mindset to accept that because that's sort of what you signed up for. But if you're having a conversation at Thanksgiving dinner and you're just trying to get through to dessert so you can have some pumpkin pie, and all of a sudden your uncle starts making comments that isolate half the family, that's not okay. These are people that you have to interact with, and it shows, some would argue, a great deal of ignorance, but after a solid 30 years of knowing better, we can't really use that excuse anymore.
Right. So sexist and racist comments we put under the category of damaged behavior because it's behavior that ultimately doesn't help the user in the long run. It pushes well-adjusted people away and actually diminishes the positive bonds they have in society. So that's a good example. I wonder if there was another one I thought of because one of our pets walked by. Have you ever noticed that people really get attached to their pets and really are upset when they're suffering?
Yeah.
But those same people, for example, might feed snacks to their pets knowing they shouldn't, or not take their pets out for enough walks knowing they shouldn't.
It's pets and children, I guess. There's nutritional guidelines, but we stick with pets. Nutritional guidelines, and I find myself constantly looking up because I'm curious if I'm using a spice in the kitchen. What if a little bit falls on the ground and my corgi licks it up? Do I have to go to the vet emergency room? And there's so many things that animals aren't supposed to eat. And essentially, a lot of these spices and foods in the long run will cause severe chronic illness in our pets. And if we really love them and we want the best for them and we want them to be healthy and live long lives, we want to give them food that we know is safe for them and healthy for them so they don't end up with diseases that are very preventable. But a lot of people give their dogs table scraps without even looking up, is this toxic? Like garlic. A lot of people have garlic as a spice, but even a little amount of garlic or onion can be very toxic and fatal to a lot of animals. They just can't eat it.
For sure. What snacks do our dogs really enjoy?
The only ones that they're allowed to have, if we cook a meat with absolutely no spices, a little bit of olive oil to cook it, they can have a little bit of cooked meat. Other than that, occasionally they get an unsalted cracker. For some reason, they love them. The vet said it was okay, so.
They do love crackers. I was thinking more, so we eat apples a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I might have seen dried apple treats for dogs sold places, but I've never seen like a dog eat a fresh apple. But yeah, ours seem to really enjoy chewing on those delicious apples.
It's pretty cute.
Yeah, it's pretty cute. I don't know what kind of weird snacks your dogs like. I'm sure you have dogs. Many people have dogs. We have a corgi and a shepherd, which is a very strange mix.
They're a little unusual. The corgi's in charge. The shepherd is a bit of a buffoon, but that's okay.
Well, it's just like the shepherd, they're sort of like juxtaposed very well because everything about a corgi is like stumpy, like the tail and the snout and the legs.
Archie?
And he's just asleep. We're gonna use him as a reference. There you go. So as you can see, just very sad. Corgi is very stumpy, and of course the shepherd is all bones and all joints and all points.
Very sweet. Yeah, Archie, in case you're ever wondering, Archie will always be sleeping on or by our feet when we film. He's very loyal to the fact that we might have food.
Yeah, food motivated, apparently, we think corgis are. So enough about that. I want to get to the topic of our board today. Where's your proof? Because you may be asking me. You may be saying, Ian, like, how can we trust or put a lot of weight on what you're saying? Aside from the fact that there's a corgi just sort of lounging in the video. And so to that I say, Well, we looked at that in the book, and essentially we came up with the idea that there's kind of like science and social science. And sort of a story I use is that science is like if you built a cupboard, if you were a carpenter and you built a cupboard, and it's all the door is always supposed to open a certain way and close and seal a certain way, and that's how the cupboard works. It either works 100% or it's not 100%, but you can tell because you just keep opening and shutting the cupboard. And that's sort of like how science is, because the scientific process is the ability to reproduce and experiment, um, controlling the variables and getting the same result. That's the idea of the scientific process. Of course, social science, I compare more to someone painting a picture. And no one would ever say a painting is 100% perfect. Yeah.
I mean, it's subjective. That's the beauty of it. Some people hate certain art styles, while some people love them. And you don't have to agree. It's like beauty. Beauty is subjective. There are billions of people on the planet, and everyone is beautiful to somebody, but not always the same people.
That's right. But nevertheless, some paintings, many people, or most people agree, are quite good. So when we make our arguments in the book and on the show, it's more akin to the social science standard, which is it's going to be maybe generally true, but not always 100% true. Like that cupboard is going to open and shut 100% of the time, but not 100% of the people are going to love a painting. So that's how we feel humans are and human nature is. And the standard of proof we apply, where's your proof? That's what it says. Yeah.
It does. You wrote it very beautifully. His handwriting is much better than mine.
So good. Grade 3, I definitely peaked. I was able to do this sort of, I was going to say typing. It's not typing. This sort of printing. That's, oof. How is that Corgi doing?
I'm really enjoying our hug. He's just relaxed. I don't know if you enjoy having animals on the show, but we enjoy having them nearby, and I think they make everything better.
He is very cuddly today. Oh, yes. So the standard of proof we use and we talk about in the book is like a horse.
Yes.
Hey, Abby.
Do I tell the story?
Well, why don't you tell the story?
All right. So this is a story from the book that I am paraphrasing. And a father got his sons each a horse. And they'd never seen a horse before. They'd never encountered a horse. And he said, these are your horses. You can use them to get around. Mount your horse and ride it into town. So the first brother goes up to the head and he says, this seems like a great platform to get on the horse. So he tries to grab the face, grab the mane, and pull himself onto the horse. Well, obviously, the horse throws him off and tries to bite him. It's not ideal. The second brother says, okay, the face is dangerous. I'm going as far away from that as humanly possible. So he picks the tail. So he grabs the tail and tries to swing up onto the horse by climbing up the tail. The horse kicks him in the face. Not ideal. The third brother goes, guys, there's a saddle in the middle with little, shoe holes. I don't know what you call it. Stirrup. Yeah, it has stirrups. And he goes, why would you go to either end when the middle is just so convenient?
I note that the third brother doesn't actually help the second brother, who, by the sounds of the story, has a major concussion.
No, he's on his own. He's like, you suck at horses. I'm judging you.
It's a good thing that not all of them got on, because like 3 people on a horse would be a tight fit.
Well, I said it was 3 different horses. I changed the story a little bit because originally it was just one horse, but for the sake of the story, they each have one.
I think you're right. I think it is 2 different horses, but maybe in an alternate story, there's just one horse and it's like a free-for-all, like who can get on this horse. I feel bad for the horse in that story. So yeah, that's one of the stories the fables we sort of created to put in the book, to say basically the horse is like, getting on the horse is like understanding sort of the truth of humans. Something that we all want to do. It's a nice cozy thing to walk around life, sort of having a fairly good concept of the truth of the human condition. Because everything that happens, it's a lot less mysterious. But anyway, so the head of the horse we think is like science. That's like this understanding the truth of the human condition. If you try and get on from the head, which is like science, it's just too high, and the teeth of the scientific community will just repel you because
just because the standard of scientific proof is so high and it takes so many years.
Exactly.
I wasn't sure if you were going to connect the metaphor with something that
I often don't, so that's helpful to do. So that's exactly right. So we couldn't really in our book use any specific scientific study to help us explain damage and explain the policies that need to flow to fix damage. It was just too strong of a standard. Although we recognize the head is part of the horse, obviously. So we're going to talk about the scientific community a lot in our exposition here. And then the back end of the horse, you could say that was like religion, because that's sort of the opposites. Scientific standard of proof is closer to 100%. Religious standard of proof, to have faith in something, to have faith that things are the way they are simply because a religion that sort of explains it that way, requires almost 0% evidence. It's a lot closer to zero, so we call that faith. And there's a lot of use in religious tenets, and we sort of have studied those in the course of learning about this. But overall, because religions were usually created when there wasn't a very good understanding of the brain and evolution and these things that we know that are good signposts towards the truth of the human condition, to have created theories in those absence, as religions did, they're not going to be very helpful. And indeed, our poor brother got kicked. How sad. But there they go. The tail is still part of the horse. So we don't get onto the horse with science or religion. So how do we get onto the horse, Andy? What are the stirrups?
Logic. So just to recap what Ian said, we see value in science and religion. There are good parts to both. Mm-hmm. And we think it's a fallacy to discount either completely, because I think the reason so many humans find solace in them and adhere to them is because they have merit. So again, the scientific community, in order to prove any of what we're saying scientifically, it would take many years, and we don't want to wait that long to try to help people. And while a lot of religions have very beautiful tenets, there are some aspects of religion that are a little antiquated and may not be fair to those involved. So we want to take elements from both and meet in the middle in the stirrups of logic, to sort of say, you can see some elements of science to back up our theory. You can see some elements of sort of faith or human understanding or instinct, however you want to word it. And in the middle, taking a little bit of each, I feel there's just a truth. And you can sort of sense it for yourself.
Yeah, so if you define logic as something that's consistent with observation, mm-hmm. that's sort of what we're putting forward. So you don't really have to take our word for anything we're saying. We want you to look within your own experience, because humans, I find, when we go around in society and we interact with hundreds and thousands of people as we do in the course of our lives, we all kind of develop theories and judgments about why people do what they do. It's just natural. Mm-hmm. And so what we've concluded, we believe that you can also substantiate if you just think about your interactions with people that you've had. And if you find that what we're saying passes what some people call the sniff test,
yep,
just kind of makes sense, it just kind of holds water, then that's what we want you to do, to go on this adventure with us as we go from step to step. So that's how that journey is going to be. Each stroke of the paddle will be based on a logical observation that we've observed that isn't majorly contradicted by the scientific community, or perhaps even corroborated to some degree by the scientific community. And we're going to go from there. That's going to be a lot of fun. Hey, Abby.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And I think as you bear with us and you go on this journey with us, our hope is that it'll resonate with you, because our experience so far is that the people we've talked to, it's resonated with them. Mm-hmm. And as we'll probably get into, it's improved people's lives. Mm-hmm. So because of that, we want to continue on, because we're open to questions, suggestions, contradictions, whatever it may be, because we feel that the best way to test a theory is to challenge it and see what other people think. So that's sort of what we're doing here. We're giving it to you to get your feedback.
There we go. So thanks for tuning in. This was episode 5. Where's your proof? The proof is with you, my friends. Coming at you from Dancing with Damage.
Have a great day.